Do you ever wonder how artists get a skull to look super bright like this? Stick around to the end and you will see how. What's up, artists? Skulls are one of those tattoo designs that you will see all the time. And you'll also tattoo over and over again. And when you know how to do them properly, they look awesome. But a lot of artists struggle to actually tattoo them, especially when you're trying to get the contrast right. Now, you'll see artists all the time just trying to pack in those solid blacks, or just putting a heap of white into the tattoo design to try to make the skull look brighter. But this is not what you want to do. See, when the white actually heals, it will just fade out a ton. Also, if the client has darker skin, the melanin in their skin will actually make it heal a brownish color. So what is the right way to tattoo a skull? I will show you right here.
Whenever you're using white, it's not white ink that makes the bones look nice and dark. It's actually putting the shading in places to where it makes the skin tone pop out more. So you want to make sure that you're not putting in too much dark to where all of those light sources don't kind of pop. When you're going through with the design, it's really important to create the depth. So you can see here I'm going through and doing all of the dark areas and all of the detailed areas as well. Background shading is really important. So whenever you go into the background, it can be really tempting to go in and just start magging everything. What I do, I use a round shader so that you're able to map out that area and make a hard stop. If you don't do this, it doesn't come out as crisp and it'll kind of look a little bit blurry. So using that round shader is really important to kind of have that background pop out and have your design really stand out on the tattoo. Also, when you're using the mag, you want to make sure that your background is nice and smooth. You don't want any choppy shading or anything. It'll just make it look unnatural and make it look weird. So right here, I'm going in with my liner and creating small little details. This is really important to have your design kind of have all of the dimensions that you need it to. So all the little cracks in the detailed areas that really make a skull stand out is what I'm doing here with my round liner. So I do this and I'm not using black all the time. I'm using differences in my gray wash to be able to make that effect. So adding cracks, if you use solid black, the line will be too harsh and will be super overpowering when it comes to shading over top of it and with healing. So what I do, I go into 10 or 8 drops and be able to do the cracks. So when it naturally heals, it'll look like it's just a shadow instead of a really harsh line that will affect the way the tattoo heals and holds up through time. Whenever you're going through with any detailed areas, make sure you're not doing it with solid black. I only use solid black for the background. So now let's talk about creating contrast. If you have a dark background behind the skull and then a super dark area like the eye socket, it makes the skin tone look way brighter because of its own contrast. Then you go add some really light tones, but don't go darker than a 2 wash to add dimension and shape to the face of the skull. What I mean by this is when you're going through and you have a really dark background, you also don't want to go too dark in the eye socket because there is a bone behind there. So having it just as black as the background will just kind of look like the skull is completely hollow the whole way through, which is not the case. So be careful when you're putting in your shading areas that it actually makes sense. And this is where following your reference is so important. So now we're just going through and finishing up all the shading of the skull. And there you go.